Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So today, we're tackling a major, urgent story. Nearly 42 million Americans who rely on the Food Stamp Program, or SNAP, may not receive benefits in November if the U.S. federal government shutdown continues. So let's break it down in simple terms and understand what SNAP is, why it's currently controversial in the U.S., and what will happen if the program stops. We'll go step by step. Well, as you guys know, the United States of America is currently the biggest economy in the world, but being the largest economy doesn't mean everyone is rich or that the country is without problems. There are many low-income groups in the U.S. who struggle to even afford basic necessities, including food. So to provide food security for these vulnerable groups, the U.S. government runs the SNAP program. The SNAP program is a critical part of the social safety net in the U.S. It is designed to ensure that households can afford a more adequate, nutritious diet, which helps improve food security and reduce poverty. Many low-income individuals and families, as well as working families, seniors on fixed incomes, and people with disabilities, apply for SNAP benefits. The U.S. federal government covers the full cost of these benefits. And if we look at the data, we can clearly see the importance of this SNAP program. In fiscal year 2024, an average of about 42 million Americans received SNAP benefits each month, roughly 12 to 13% of the U.S. population. That's about 1 in 8 Americans who depend on SNAP benefits. U.S. federal SNAP spending for fiscal year 2024 was approximately $100 billion, with benefits averaging about $187 per participant per month. Research shows that SNAP helps reduce food insecurity in the U.S. For low-income households, receiving SNAP is associated with improved food security outcomes. The United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA, which manages the SNAP program, estimates that every additional billion in SNAP benefits during an economic slowdown increases GDP by roughly $1.6 billion. So, in summary, SNAP is crucial not only for individual households to avoid hunger and poor nutrition, but also for communities, the economy, and the broader social safety net. When SNAP is disrupted, the consequences extend far beyond just missing groceries. So now the question is, what's happening right now? And why are we even talking about this? Well, since October 1st, the U.S. federal government has shut down. And unlike some programs that can continue with existing funds, SNAP is facing a financial cliff. Now here's where things get complicated and controversial. Right now, it's estimated that the USDA has a $6 billion contingency fund. This is backup money specifically for situations like natural disasters, such as floods or tornadoes. But this time, the USDA is saying that they won't use it because they claim that the contingency fund is not legally available for regular benefits. The argument is that the contingency fund only supplements benefits when regular appropriations are insufficient, not when those appropriations don't exist at all. Let me break that down in simpler terms. The USDA is saying, we have the money, but we can't legally use it because Congress didn't authorize the regular funding first. It's like having a spare tire in your car, but being told you can't use it because the original tire is completely missing, not just flat. So, on one side, the USDA memo says it can't legally use the contingency fund to replace regular appropriations. On the other side, President Trump told some reporters that everybody is going to be in good shape. So there's a conflict between what the USDA memo says and what the president is claiming. Now, for millions of Americans who rely on SNAP to put food on the table, the thought of losing those payments in November is nothing short of devastating. In the U.S., for many households, the SNAP benefit is a vital part of their food budget. If that benefit disappears, the consequences will be severe. First, obviously, food insecurity will rise. More people will struggle to get enough to eat. Second, other budgets will suffer. Without SNAP, many families will be forced to choose between buying groceries and paying for essentials like rent, utilities, or medicine. And third, there will be ripple effects. When people spend less on food, grocery stores, markets, and even local farmers lose business. That means fewer jobs and weaker local economies. Since SNAP serves tens of millions of Americans, any disruption quickly becomes a national concern. not just a personal one. Now, you may be wondering, if SNAP is so important, why haven't U.S. political leaders protected it? Well, the answer is simple. This isn't really about SNAP. SNAP is collateral damage in a much bigger political fight in the U.S. Democrats are saying they won't pass a short-term spending bill without extending enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies. They want additional financial help from the U.S. government to make health insurance more affordable for more people. On the other hand, President Trump's administration and Republicans argue that Democrats are holding Americans hostage. Meanwhile, U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins is warning that food stamp benefits will run dry by the end of the month. So, could the U.S. government use the contingency fund to prevent this disaster? Well, many U.S. policy experts believe the administration could use that fund. For example, Sharon Parrott, a former official with the Office of Management and Budget, argues that the administration is actually required to use those reserves. Now, what happens if November benefits don't get paid? If the SNAP program doesn't continue in November, around 12 to 13% of the U.S. population, roughly 42 million people, will suddenly lose access to food assistance. Food banks, already stretched thin, will be overwhelmed. Working families may face the difficult decision of choosing between paying rent and buying food. It's estimated that November's SNAP benefits could cost about $8 billion, while the contingency fund currently holds only $6 billion. The math here is telling. Even if they use the entire fund, there would still be a $2 billion gap. However, experts point out that the USDA could tap into other sources of funding, just like they did for the WIC program or like the administration has done for military pay and other priorities. Pressure is mounting on Congress to end the shutdown, but as of now, there's no deal in sight. States have been told not to issue November payments until further notice, and the clock is ticking. So what happens next? First, in the best-case scenario, Congress could pass a short-term spending bill, also known as a continuing resolution, that includes funding for SNAP. If that happens, benefits could be restored, and the shutdown might finally come to an end. Second, some states might try to use their own funds temporarily to cover SNAP benefits. But here's the catch. The federal government has already made it clear that states won't be reimbursed if they do. That puts states in a tough position, since they have to shoulder the cost themselves with no guarantee of getting that money back. And finally, if neither of these things happens, millions of households may not receive their November benefits. This could trigger emergency measures like food banks, charitable support, and state emergency declarations to help fill the gap. As you can see, this isn't just a policy dispute. It has real consequences for millions of Americans who depend on SNAP for their food security. And there's also a significant legal debate. Some advocates argue that the USDA is legally required to use the contingency fund, while others interpret the law differently. So, what do you think about this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.